Yep.
So we are working on a plan. This is the simplest answer to a very complex situation. I understand 100% that all of you are concerned about the place that you live. I understand that you're concerned about the 13As that exist in this building, the Section 8s, as well as some of the project-based information that we've all discussed in my office. So we understand that. We take that into consideration. And first and foremost, and this isn't political talk, our goal right now, as we speak, is to preserve the housing that's here for the people that live here exclusively. Okay, that's a fact. We are working on that plan. Anything going forward after that, we're negotiating. Doesn't mean we've made up our mind, doesn't mean our minds won't change, doesn't mean that we're not negotiating with the DCHD, mass housing, potential buyers of the property. We are talking about other options. What is not an option is to just kick people out into the streets. So wherever you heard that from, that's not true. The only person that can speak for me is me, and I'm here speaking to you. So don't take it from anybody else, any kind of nonsense that you hear. I would never, ever want to see anybody kicked out of their home, no matter their socioeconomic status, no matter their gender, race, whatever it may be. Housing is a right. Good housing is deserved by all people, and I am a supporter of all kinds of housing, from market rate to affordable. But it's got to be done in a planned manner so that communities are not held back by either too much, and this is the way I describe it, too much market rate, or too little market rate, or too much Section 8, or too little Section 8. And that's happened in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts for a very long time. So that's our only goal, is to make sure that we have a plan going forward. We do not have any plans of kicking anybody out of this building. Okay? So we want to preserve the people that live here, but to be honest, everybody, we got to make sure that you're safe and that this property doesn't become a situation like we've had in other properties, one of them across the street. Okay? So we have to do that, and we have to do our jobs, and that's what we're doing. But that's why we're here today. I understand it wasn't fair. The only thing that I think maybe we made a mistake on was, and it's not necessarily our fault, we didn't know that Mr. Kane would be talking to you and organizing an association. We didn't know that certain developers were going to come speak to you. We didn't know those things were going to happen. We didn't know that they were going to take a plan that we didn't say no to. We said come back with a better plan. We didn't know that Weston was going to take that to the Housing Authority meeting and try and ram 150 project-based units into this property. We didn't know that stuff was going to happen. So that's the only reason this meeting hasn't happened before today. We're here today. We're going to talk about the issues that you have, and we're going to figure everything out. But you need to know, if you're hearing it from the source, it's being recorded, so I can't go back on it. Our goal is not to kick anybody that already lives here out. Okay? We want to preserve your housing, good housing, the place that you've known for a long time, the place that you live, the place that you call home. We want to preserve that. That is a goal. Okay? So that's where we're at. As of last week, the last conversation that we've had, I'm going to turn over to Mike Dion in a second. The last conversation we had, which was a very positive one, was with Mass Housing. So Mass Housing, after hearing what the city's position was, because they did not know the city's position, is willing to potentially create a program that would preserve the 13As, right? The 13As that are in this property already, and allow some new financing for a potential buyer. That's where we're at today, as of last week. And we're working very closely with Mass Housing on that project. And that's the update. Now, any detailed questions that you may have, we're here to answer them. And that's, does that sound fair? Everybody okay with that?
I have, good morning.
Good morning.
We have some questions that some of our residents wrote down yesterday that we had a meeting prior. I am a vet. I am a veteran
Thank you for your service.
on a fixed income, and I want to continue living here. I'm a veteran and fought for my country. I would like to stay in my home. Please preserve the affordability of my home here. I am 90 years old of age, handicapped. I use a walker and unable to move. Please help to keep me out of the nursing home, that is where I will have to go to live. Why not just develop certain mills to market rate rents and leave Riverview Towers alone? I would have to sell my car to afford market rate rent. Grandparents are living in this building, raising their grandchildren. Affordable housing is what is happening, what's gonna happen in 3 years after this is over. If we don't get these vouchers, we don't get to keep the low income. That's what they're asking. What's gonna happen to all of us in 3 years when we have to move out?
Well, first of all, thank you for your service, those that are veterans in the room. How many veterans do we have? Can you raise your hand? Thank you. Thank you very much. I also see the sign here, we built this city. How many people here worked in a mill in this community, huh? Not me. How many people? Thank you as well, you did build this city, thank you. So a couple things there, we'll break down those questions. Number one, we are developing other mill properties, right? We're reutilizing those mills into market rate apartments, right? We've seen that on the waterfront, in Commonwealth Landing. We're seeing that at a few other properties on Alden Street, at the end of Alden Street, a market rate building. We're also seeing 55 and 62 plus buildings as well that are being converted for mills. And we have, again, there's no hidden agenda here. I'm going to be very frank with everybody on how these projects get developed. A mill that somebody can buy for, let's say, $1 million or less and get historic tax credits and get new market tax credits and get free money from the government to redevelop that property is a very clean, easy property to make into a market rate property. A building that you got to come up with $17 million for, which is the offer on this property, is very hard to transition to market rate because you don't get historic tax credits for this property, and you don't get certain tax credits for this property that mills would get. So we understand, and that's why I don't want anybody to think that we were trying to make this a market rate property. We understand from a city perspective and from a business perspective that this building is much more challenging to convert to market rate because of the purchase price than a mill that's only $1 million. That's obvious, right? You got a mill that's $1 million to make 100 apartments, or you've got a building that's 200 apartments or 17 million. Which one's going to be easier and more profitable for a developer to develop? It's going to be the mill. So our strategy was never to just come in here and say, this building's going to be market rate. That would be ludicrous. We wouldn't be able to make that happen. It would be impossible to make that happen. So again, where you heard that from was misinformation, because the numbers don't even add up. They don't make sense. Our goal is how do we ensure that we preserve the homes so the people that are here. I don't see anybody in here that's going to cause an issue in our school system, cause an issue on our streets, right? I don't see anybody in here that's going to do that. But we know that the state has pushed people to Fall River that have caused issues because there's a funnel effect, and Mr. Kane can help us with this. There's a funnel effect happening to gateway cities, Brockton, New Bedford, Springfield, Lowell, Fall River. And if we don't fight that as elected officials, that's not going to help you. That's not going to help your grandkids in school. That's not going to help our city streets and our police officers and our fire departments. That's going to cause a problem. And it's not a poor versus rich. It's not a black versus white. That's not the issue. The issue is the state has a mandate to give people and put people into housing that's clean, safe, and in areas of opportunity. We're surrounded by Somerset, Westport, Dartmouth. Why aren't people moving in those communities into affordable housing? What's wrong with those communities? They've got good schools, they've got good housing, they've got good police stations and fire stations. There's no reason why new project-based units cannot be spread throughout the whole Commonwealth. And that's the goal of this administration, to ensure that somebody that doesn't know anything about Fall River doesn't move into Fall River from Pennsylvania, from New York City. That's our goal. And that's the fight that we're having on the 6th floor. That's the communications that we're having with Mass Housing and DCHD and any potential developer. It's never been let's kick out the people that live in this building. That's never been the conversation. Let's convert this whole building to market rate, because it's literally impossible to do so. That's never been the conversation. The conversation is, how do we protect the people that live there and also make this a project that continues to make this property safe, affordable, and good for the people that live there. That's our goal. So I hope that kind of answers the question. I think it does a little bit, but I know we have other questions, so I don't want to spend 20 minutes on every question. So we'll go through some of the others.
Well, my name's Madeline,
Hi,
and
Madeline.
this is one of the questions. Is it true you are against Weston and the vouchers?
Look, I'm not against Weston. I'll tell you, I'm very disappointed with Weston. I've told them that to their own faces. Anytime you come to my office and make a proposal, and Mike Dion was there, and we didn't say no. We said, go back, this is the problems that we have with it. It's gonna make an entire building project-based, and anybody from anywhere in the world that has a project-based voucher can move in this property. That's not what we want. We want protections. We want to know what's going on. So we said, go back and give us another proposal. And instead of coming back to us to give us another proposal, they decide to organize and confuse people and use money and power and leverage in Boston and others, in other places, to get what they want. Not what you want. Make no mistake about it. And if Weston was here, I don't know if this gentleman's from Weston, he keeps saying no.
We keep shaking his
He
head,
works
Steve,
here.
and you've been outspoken, so please.
So,
I wanna.
don't make any mistakes about it. What was the development fee, Mike, in that proposal?
$3 million.
$3 million. Day one, I signed the paperwork, everything's good, they make $3 million. And they're all living in Boston, and they don't care. Don't make any mistake about this. They're probably a good company, so I'm not against them, but their approach was wrong. Their approach was wrong. Their approach to turn you people against the city or against me or whomever was wrong. Instead of all of us meeting at the same time and working this out. So it's not that I'm against Weston, but I am against people that are greedy and want to make $3 million on the backs of people in this community. That's what I'm against.
They also wanted $1.6 million.
This is another, they wanted 1.6 million, this is the problem.
We hear they didn't want
No.
1.6
No,
million.
no, we can show you, okay,
Yeah.
so how about this? How about this? Why don't we get copies of their original proposal, signed by their own people, presented by their people, that was given to our office that shows 1.6 million from them?
That'd be fine.
And then you can
That'd
tell
be
them,
great.
why did you come to my house and lie to me?
Right.
How about that?
That's right.
So that-
I got an emails.
So we can do that.
We can do that.
That should come from Michael King.
So originally, they came to us asking, and you can see the proposal,
He needs to
1.6
answer on
million.
that.
And we do
Very
not
quiet.
have 1.6 million
No,
to
we
commit to this project.
No, because we
How much money do we
started,
have to commit to
you
this
know,
project?
Right now, nothing.
That's why I wanted him to
But
come
in
in.
our
and-
yearly, what do we have in home funds?
Yearly home funds, we get about $700,000, 10% is for admin, so that's 70 taken off, about $500,000.
So we have 500,000 a year to commit to home
So it'll
funds.
take you 4
And they
years.
wanted 1.6 million. We wanted 4 years' worth. That 1.6, but they're getting 3 million on day one. That doesn't make any sense. Okay, so another problem when we looked at this proposal. All right.
Oh, well, here's a,
Did they,
this is
oh,
something
go ahead.
that wrote. I came here with my parents, I was 40 years young. Now I'm 82 and very concerned about not living at Riverview Towers. I love my apartment, all the many friends I've met, and feel safe here. Mayor Correia, you said we had nothing to worry about, so I'm asking you, what is your plan for us? This is our home, we all love it, here at Riverview Towers.
So the plan.
Please help us.
We will help you, and we are helping. Our plan right now is, as we left the last week, I mean, today's only Monday, so, last week, we spoke to Mass Housing, and Mass Housing was very happy. Look, Mass Housing wants to help everybody in this room. DCHD wants to help everybody in this room. But they do that blindly across the state, all right? It's their job. We've got to help them understand the needs, specific needs of Fall River. They don't read minds, they don't have a crystal ball. We have to do that, and that's what we did. We interfered, and intervened, and said, look, this is what we're looking for. We want to preserve, and this is exactly what we told them. We want to preserve the 13A that's here. We want to preserve the housing that's here. So we need a creative solution to help finance whatever purchase happens to keep the people that are here, long-term, for as long as you hear it. But also control and understand how any new people coming into this property would be. Where would they be coming from? Who would they be? That kind of information. And I hope that you can understand from our perspective as to why we want to do that. I hope you would understand that, because we've experienced issues, not unique to this property, but throughout the community, when that doesn't happen. When you don't have a mayor that's watching what's happening with all these developers and all this money. And that's the issue. So our goal right now is, I mean, Mike, that's pretty accurate, right? You want to step in here and say
No,
anything?
that's right on. We've been having ongoing discussions with both of those organizations. We have plans in the work. They're getting numbers back to us within the next week. But I just want to let everybody know, one of the things that the mayor hasn't said is that this is a privately owned property.
Right.
Right.
So at the end of this, your concerns need to be to the owner that currently owns the property now. Because she still might own this property in 6 months to a year. It's what's beneficial to her in terms of this building. So you need to let your voices known to the person who owns this building. Government can only do so much, and I don't want you to be negative, but I'm just saying at the end of all of this, the lady could not want to sell. So I think your voices need to be told
They wanna sell.
to the private owners also at this point.
But Mike brings up a good point. You know, we are not driving the bus. The city is not driving the bus on this sale situation. We were asked to participate by giving 1.6 million. We were asked to extend and allow 150 project-based vouchers for this property, which we have no control over. And then the housing for 40 years. And then the housing authority was asked to do the same when there was no appetite to do that. So the communication from the particular buyer just was not good. That's what it came down to. But our goal, again, at this moment in time, is to preserve housing here for those that are here. Yes.
So the vouchers are out.
The project-based vouchers are not an option
Okay.
by the housing authority.
Yeah, Section 8, to get those vouchers for Section 8 to come in here, they wanted what,
So,
190?
So it's a little bit confusing. So this building will still be able to accept Section 8
Right.
vouchers.
There's 64 of them right now that are tenant-based,
Right.
which means that they go with the tenant.
Go with the tenant.
The
Right.
tenant could leave at any point in
This
time
is
and
the key.
take that voucher.
That's what
project-
people don't understand.
So that's the tenant-based. Does everybody hear that in the back? Tenant-based means that voucher, Section 8 voucher, goes with the tenant. So if that tenant decides to leave this building and go somewhere else, whether in Fall River or another community, that Section 8 goes with them. What they were attempting to do is called project-based. That means the unit is project-based for 40 years. That means I have no control, not that I want control, but the city wants to strategically plan. We have no control, no say, no anything on where anybody comes to this building from. So you have to understand, from the city's perspective, we weren't attacking the people that lived here. We wanted to ensure that the longevity of the property was maintained as a safe, affordable property for those that are already here. That's all we were attempting to do. But anybody that's trying to buy the property is attempting to make a profit. That's their only attempt. Don't make any mistake about it. Okay, we're not a profitable business. The city is not a profit, it's not a corporation that profits. We have to keep things in the black so the city doesn't go bankrupt, but our goal is to protect people. I did very well in this district. I won, okay, and I want to thank those that voted for me. They helped me. The people in this building helped me get reelected. Our goal is not to fight you, it's to help you, and that's what we do every day. That's what people like Alan Sylvia do every single day in Boston and locally. That's what I'm trying to do. That's what Mike has done for how many years, Mike? 20, 30 years?
2 years.
So 22 years. That's our goal. So, other questions?
Another question, okay, I'm sorry, go
Stevie's
ahead.
been raising his hand.
Yeah, well, go ahead.
He's come to my office 15
I know.
times. He's very outspoken, and I want your questions answered.
Right.
That's why I was getting crazy over it.
I brought the petitions up to your office. Kathy Ann said to me that this is what you wanted, okay? When a apartment became available here, not a Section 8, because you just made it very clear that a Section 8, that unit stayed as a Section 8, so to speak, it's more the same. When that unit became available, someone moved out, passed away, whatever, she told me that you wanted that unit to become market rate.
So
Now, is
let's
that-
just,
am
let's
I-
just say.
Am I right?
Let's just,
Okay,
hold
okay,
on.
no, wait a minute, I let you speak.
Okay, that's what
Okay,
you're right.
I'm just giving you my point. Okay, so if that becomes a case where somebody moves out, that unit becomes a market rate unit, number one. So let's say, for instance, now we're referring to the fact that Weston Associates purchasing it. That's why we're here, because there was a no by the Housing Authority Board. That's why when they tabled it, that's why we're here today. Because I don't think we would have been here today on the fact that if that no vote would have went through. Okay, now, put Weston Associates aside. You get a private person coming in, whether it's a group, individual, whatever, comes in, buys the building, turns this whole building into Section 8s, whether it's state Section 8s or mobile Section 8s. You can't do anything about it. It's like somebody buying a 6-family.
You're absolutely right.
three-family. So that's my point. So if you would have looked at the fact of what Weston Associates planning on doing, rather than an individual coming in, a private individual coming in, because Weston is through mass housing. There's a designate through mass housing. And you would think that mass housing would have a say in this, not just one individual, which happened to be you. Because you made it clear to the board to say no. And they reneged on that, and they turned around and said, no, we're gonna table it. And that's why we're here today, because I don't think we would be here otherwise.
Okay, so a couple questions there. Number one, I don't see anything wrong with what Kathy Ann told you. If somebody leaves, tenant base, and the new owner wanted to rent it to a market rate, how is that bad for you? My goal has been to preserve your housing. That's what I've heard from the people that have come to my office who called, or saw me, or talked to Alan Sylvia. That's been the concern, that you want to protect your units in this building that you live in. That's what we want to protect. If the next person that comes in is market rate, that should be a good thing. That should be something everybody wants. Because as long as your house is protected, why wouldn't you want that? Why wouldn't you want somebody coming in that's a market rate? Well, it doesn't matter if they're market rate or not, but why wouldn't you want somebody coming in next to you that, it doesn't matter who they are. I don't understand if they're connected. So that's one thing that Kathy
What
makes.
happens here is that now the state turns around and says, all right, the building becomes a market rate building. And there are people in here that are on a fixed income. And you know as well as I do, the state isn't giving out the kind of monies that they were giving out before on the Section 8s. Now, a lot of the people that were on Section 8s are paying, have to pay more than what they were paying. The state no longer meets up to a market rate. So, okay, so now if the new owner comes in and decides that he wants all market rate, how are these people that are on a fixed income gonna be able to meet up to the market rate value? They're not going to.
Sir, if this property was sold tomorrow for $25 million and a new developer wanted to market rate the whole property, the city wouldn't be able to stop that. Nobody, including mass housing, wouldn't be able to stop
Or
that.
vice versa.
Correct. So where we're at today is a negotiation to preserve your apartments, the ones that are here already. Any new ones are up for negotiation. That's all we're doing. My goal today, going forward from last week, since this became an issue, is preserve the 13As and the people that live here now. Going forward is a totally different scenario.
Obviously.
And I think that's what everybody wants. I don't think anybody's disagreed with that plan. That's been our goal. Now, there's been misinformation that I want to kick people out and that I want the whole building to be market rate tomorrow and all this other stuff. Those things are impossibilities and they're just not true. Yes.
I have a question. When my husband and I moved here, which is not long ago.
Welcome.
Thank
Where
you.
you moved from? The South?
Yes, I
Yes.
did.
How could you tell me?
Anyway, my question is, okay, I didn't know, I was not approved with section, I don't know, the laws,
Sure,
section
it's
8
okay.
or whatever. He applied, it was approved, but we didn't know that it was applied for here. You know, that they went, with them and approved it, so I didn't go. But then I was going through paperwork, and I saved it, thank goodness, saying that all we had to do was go down together and work through the paperwork, and it would have been accepted here. Well, we found all that out in the midst of all this going on. Now, to say, if we were to go down there and we were approved or on the waiting list, how would that help us with the new buyers coming in? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And wanting to up the rent and then preserve something.
So, yeah, that's a great question. So basically the waiting list people and going forward, where those people be accepted here. Again, the only thing that we're trying to figure out, and negotiating with the state, Mass Housing and DCHD. Is it gonna be project-based or tenant-based? That's it. My position as mayor is that it should not be project-based to this property, connected to the unit. That it should be connected to the individuals that are here. I'm not against Section 8 vouchers, I'm not against low-income housing, affordable housing, even in this property or other properties. What I do not want to see happen is all 200 units here become Section 8 project-based units for 40 years with little control as to who comes to this property. That's what I don't want to have happen. So our goal today, I think it would still make sense because your voucher would be with you. So I think you'd still be able to apply here, get housing here or somewhere else. But that voucher would go with you, tenant-based as opposed to project-based. Does that make some sense?
Yes, but I have another question.
Yes.
I don't mean to,
Sure.
take
That's okay.
everyone's time. But say one of those offices do like the state and one does like federal, where you can move like anywhere
Sure.
and things. And I'm concerned about how that would work. You see what I'm saying?
I don't know the answer between the federal and the state. I don't know how that works. What the only thing that I can commit to, so to speak, is if it's tenant-based and the owner of the property was still accepting Section 8 vouchers, then you'd be accepted, right? I don't know how the state, federal work. I'm just not well versed in it, right? But you're already living here, right?
Right.
So you'd be protected.
Okay.
Sir,
Is Weston the only prospective buyer?
I'm
that
not
you know
here.
of?
I don't. I've heard from the what's the guy? Mr.
Well, they're the
Kane.
only ones that approached you so far.
No, we've met with two. There has been a second one that Mr. Kane brought to my office, who just,
No, Mr. King.
I'm getting them confused. Mr.
Yeah.
Kane, who's the other
Real
guy?
estate agent that's selling
The broker.
Elliot Weiss, White? I'm getting these guys confused.
I believe on the 31st
He's the broker.
is the end, is the end of that
So
agreement.
there's a
Yeah.
precedent sale by the 31st expires at Weston. I don't know if there are others. I
There could
only
be
know of
another
two.
company approved by housing as well?
And it may end up being Weston. What we're trying to figure out is, can Mass Housing create a special, I don't want to say specialized program, but can they be flexible with ensuring the protection of the people that live here and still providing the new buyer the incentives to purchase the property? Because that's what the buyer is looking for. They're looking for incentives to soften the $17 million purchase price.
Mr. King might have something to
Okay,
say.
you want to speak?
Okay, thank you. My name is Michael Kane, and from the Mass Alliance of Tenants. We don't own or manage anything.
Yep, we know.
And we had a contract with Mass Housing to come and explain what was going on with the subsidies. So the problem, and I think it's important, Mayor, that it was important that you said.
Do you have a contract with Mass Housing?
With
Could you
CDAC.
provide us
with
that?
CDAC,
But
too.
do you have a contract with Mass Housing? You just stated.
With
you have-
CDAC.
What's CDAC?
CDAC is a state agency that was.
But are they Mass Housing?
No.
No, but they're.
Okay, so you don't have a contract with Mass Housing, you just
Just
stated.
Mass
you
Housing
have a-
has the contract with CDAC.
But
which
you
is-
do not have a contract with Mass Housing.
Not direct.
Okay.
But we were asked by Mass Housing and CDAC.
Just wanted to clarify, because you gotta tell people the truth.
At different buildings. But you said that you want to preserve the people that are here now, you don't want anybody displaced. The problem is that there are about 90 people who are paying the 13A
87.
basic rent, 87 to be exact, that are paying the 13A
We know,
basic rent.
13, yeah.
That mortgage ends on March 1st.
Correct.
The rents there will eventually go up to market. There will be a 3-year delay, but they will go to the market if the current preservation sale is not approved.
Correct.
So the only way, there is no way to get vouchers for those people that are mobile vouchers. You can't do it legally. The only way to preserve those tenants, to make sure they're not displaced, is through getting a project-based voucher contract from the Housing Authority for 90 people.
I disagree.
So that is, that
That's
we
not-
can, happy to show you the slide presentation that we presented to the residents. We can do that.
I saw the slide.
And that-
All right,
we
so I
can-
just wanna
but
make it
let me-
clear.
So just to be clear, there's also been a lot of misinformation about what the tenants organization has been saying and what we've been saying. The building right now is a mixed income building. There are market rate tenants in the building, there are low income tenants, and there are moderate income tenants. The Tenants Association is not saying that they want 100% of the building to be project-based vouchers. Nobody is saying that.
Weston
people-
is saying that.
well,
That's the problem, everybody.
Nobody
Weston
here
is
is
saying
saying that. But what the tenants are saying is they want to preserve the existing income profile for the current people and going forward. So the way to do that is to get at least 90 project-based vouchers to prevent displacement of the people that are here. Most of the people that are in those apartments now are paying 50 and 60% of their income for rent now. So if the rents go up $200, they will be out in the street. With project-based vouchers, their rents would actually go down immediately to 30% of their income. So it would be a rent reduction for the very low-income elderly and disabled people that are in the building. So if that happens, there is a way, and we would support this, and we could help you get this, to get a waiver from HUD for the project-based voucher program so that you can preserve the existing income profile.
That's what we're doing.
And to further get a priority for veterans, elderly, and disabled for the turnover apartments. So we would want to work with you to get that from HUD and Mass Housing and DHCD. We think that Weston would go along with that, and that I think he met with you and Mr. Dion a week or so ago, or Elliot White did.
Yes, Elliot.
And floated out, it's really a compromise that would allow, it would be about 50 apartments would be market rent, as they are now, essentially, going forward. And the remaining tenants would get a rent reduction and be able to stay. And it would preserve the income mix that is here now. It would not be, it is true, if it were 100% project-based vouchers, you would have to replace people with a very low income profile over time, unless we get a waiver from HUD. There is a way, we're very confident that HUD would do that. We've dealt with HUD for many years. So that's what we want to do. We want to get your support for a mixed income housing preservation plan. But the only way that can work is to get that project-based voucher subsidy for 90 people, not 150, so that they can stay here. That's what we're talking about. If you're preserving the rents, the people that are here now, you have to get a project-based voucher subsidy, or else the new market new market rates will displace people. And if the preservation sale falls through, then they sell to a for-profit company that has no restrictions. And that is what will happen after 3 years. So that's why that's why it was so important that everybody showed up at the Housing Authority. But you don't need 150, you need 90.
So then why were you advocating for 150?
We were there to, because we were supporting the proposal to get project-based vouchers from the Housing Authority. But I said, we just said this at the Housing Authority meeting, essentially, that we want to preserve the income profile that is here now. It's mixed income. That's what the Tenants Association, you as a group, have said. You're a member organization, and we're a tenant group. So we support what the tenants are seeking here. Somewhat different than what you're describing that Weston had originally proposed.
So I'm gonna have just Mike Dion respond to a couple things just to clarify.
Excuse me, can I just say something? We know we're not gonna get 150 vouchers. We already was told that. But we're trying to meet you in the middle. The brokers or whoever wants to buy the building in Weston, if you can give us 90.
I don't give anything.
I know you
No,
don't.
first
I know it comes from, that's
listen,
right.
This is what we're trying to
But
do.
if you could help us
This is what I'm.
Support 90.
this is-
support 90
no,
of them.
No.
No?
See, guys, this is not how, we're not doing it through the advocation of one individual who, where are you from, Mr. James?
Where am I from?
Yeah, where are you from? Where do you live?
I live in Boston.
You live in Boston. We're not gonna do it from the negotiations of one guy who lives in Boston, okay? This is what we're gonna do. We're gonna look to see if the housing, of Mass Housing, like I just stated a few minutes ago, will be flexible and preserve the 13 As that are currently in the property. We do not want a project-based 90 units, 20 units, 150 units, 200 units for the next 40 years. We want to preserve your lifestyle, your house, here today, going forward in the future.
The
And
contract's
that's,
for 20 years, by
the contract's
the way.
20 years?
Project-based voucher
You can
contracts.
project base them for 40.
So you could project base it.
You
What
could,
the
but
Housing
the
Authority is
minimum-
looking for is to project base them for 30 to 35 years. Okay,
So-
that's what they're looking for. The second thing that bothers me is, and I'm not gonna argue with Mr. Kane, okay? If Mr. Kane wants to come to my office or the mayor's office and be part of this resolution, I have no problem with that, okay? But doing what we're doing here today is not right, okay? Mr. King just told you that your rent's gonna go up $200 and you're gonna be on the street. That's not right. The price of the rent goes up 2% with a 3% price, consumer price index.
For 3 years, and then after that. there's
Correct, but
inflation.
right now, the average rent in this building is somewhere around $750. So take 2% of $750 and get $15 a month.
Oh, it's higher than that.
I got the rents in my office.
He's saying average.
Average, I'm saying. I'm saying average.
from all the
Okay, so when statements are made that you're gonna be kicked out because your rent's going up for $200 is wrong.
No, I said after 3 years.
But still,
All right.
it's wrong.
Hold on.
Okay,
So, everybody, listen, we're getting into a circular conversation, which we don't wanna do. My commitment to all of you, you're hearing it from me. You're not hearing it from somebody else, third parties, you're hearing it from me. Okay, the person that I hope that you've elected and continue to elect and to support you. You, the people in this room. Not the people from Boston, not the people that might live here 20 years from now. The people that live here now is who I wanna protect, okay? The way we're gonna try and do that is work with Mass Housing, we have the commitment from them, to be flexible in their policies and guidelines to allow the preservation of the people that currently live here. That's what we wanna do.
But we don't have much
Sir,
time.
sir,
To do it.
sir, we're going to, we
You
don't
have
have,
2 days to do it.
Sir, we-
Because as of Thursday, it's
They're
the
pulling out.
first.
we
And it
understand.
ends the 31st.
Mass Housing,
They'll extend it.
okay, exactly. Mass Housing is gonna extend it because the designee is Weston. So it's, that 2-day deadline
The owner
is,
doesn't have to agree to that though.
you're right, the owner doesn't, but that's outside of my control.
I know, I'm just saying.
That's why Mike started off saying that you have to advocate with the owner as well.
Private.
Okay, it's a private building. All right, we got a couple questions. This gentleman has been waiting, and we'll go here. Sir? Yes.
Favorite people here?
Yes.
Okay. What we're talking about goes on for 3 years from now, Jason. What we wanna know is what happens those 3 years, moving by the years now.
So
Out in
again-
the future, wait a minute. And you might not be there for 3 years, so you can't guarantee anything. Okay?
I can.
Can?
Can I tell you how?
Okay,
The
wait a minute.
deal we're putting
Wait a
together
minute,
is
but
now.
I want your opinion, I wanna see if you feel the same way that State Representative Alvin feels when he said a week ago at his office at the State House, when he said that because in 3 years, a lot of these people could be dead. Now, how's that? That makes these people feel good that in 3 years you could be dead, yeah, why you worry about it now?
That's not what I said. I said people may die and people may move out.
Right, and you
That's
said
what
you
I
got
said.
3 years to find another place to live.
I didn't say that either.
Well, there was 5 people there that heard.
Well, that's wrong. I want you to stay here.
You called me a liar?
Alan,
Five people, the tenants association sat in his office at the State House.
yeah, because
and
then
he
I'll
said that.
take the mayor and walk
Is
away.
that any way for the state representative to say something?
Civil.
I don't believe it's
That's not what I said.
for a long
That was
time.
our agreement, was to be civil.
Mike, you just have everybody's attention.
That's what you made them comment.
No, this gentleman's waiting over here.
So, first and foremost, I've known State Representative Sawyer for a long time. I can tell you, this man cares about everybody in this building, cares about everybody in this district, 100%. He is always looking, he's not the decider on everything. He
Well, I'm
can't,
not saying
he
I know
can't
that.
snap his fingers.
You're not the same line either. Well, in a way
Sir,
you
I
are,
could
because
just
you already
speak.
got food, never sitting on the board already, that you already told them.
Sir, if I could just respond. It's a fact that I don't want to exactly, it is a fact that I don't want to project-based, what was being asked, which was 150 project-based units. That is a fact.
We're not asking for that.
You were that day, weren't you? Sir, were you?
Well, that's we call
Sir,
negotiations, right?
were there any negotiations, or did you show up there without me? Did anybody meet with me?
Where?
Did anybody meet with me before that
We
proposal?
tried. We
They
tried
tried.
weeks ago to get in touch with you.
No, sir.
Because your secretary broke their leg or whatever else you did, whatever. Spring maintenance.
All right, so now you're just making it like things up like that.
They met with you at the Good Shepherd Retreat.
I did meet with you at the Good Shepherd Church, that's why we're here today.
Okay. No, one day you're supposed to, Monday, you were supposed to quit. They had to call your office back.
To be honest, he was here today. He said it was supposed to be Monday, but his assistant hurt her ankle, and that, we had to understand that.
I'm
But
here
he
today.
is here today, and he is talking to us.
So I just want to answer a couple of questions. Once again, I am against project-based units here, okay? And the city will not participate with its home funds, which we only have $500,000 a year to use, in this project for project-based. What we are attempting to do now is preserve your apartment, everybody's apartment in this room, for the life that they use that apartment for. If they decide to leave this building, that voucher potentially goes with them, or whatever they decide to do, they decide to do. But if they're living in this building, Riverview Towers, whether it's the current buyer, a new buyer, a third buyer that we don't know about, our goal right now, before 3 years, this deal is not gonna take 3 years to make happen. This deal would have been done 2 weeks ago had we just agreed to 150 vouchers, which would have been the wrong thing to do. The deal will be done soon, but we're working with Mass Housing to create a flexible solution that preserves the people that live here today, but does not project-base the building for the next 20 years as Mr. Kane, all different names, Solomon, Mr. Kane, as Mr. Kane suggested,
Same name.
or 40 years, or whatever, Solomon Kane.
No, Kane is still the same name.
That's what we're attempting to do. Okay?
So, Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
If I have finance.
We got this gentleman here.
Okay. So, we are still trying to stay on the 13 As, get
Correct.
those approved.
Correct.
So people can still have
Correct.
low income
Yes.
rent.
Yes.
The vouchers are definitely out, but there is.
Project-based units, Section
Yes.
8 vouchers will still be
Yes,
accepted.
I understand that, yes, I know that.
Okay.
But we are trying to get the program back for the 13A, for the people to pay lower rent.
That's what we're
Because that's
negotiating.
what's running out as of
Yes.
March 1st.
That is what we're
Okay.
negotiating with Mass Housing.
Yeah.
So this gentleman here, then we'll go, sorry.
Owner of this building has the final say.
Of who they sell to.
The city is trying to control who comes here, because you don't want the riffraff. You wanna keep things the same. This new buyer, that Weston guy, I was here after that meeting, and I didn't really understand that guy. Kinda like he was giving us the bamboozle or something. But anyways, I was listening to him talk, and I heard what you said earlier about the owner. Where's the owner of the building?
He's sick. He's very ill.
He's been in bed all
He's been in
weekend.
bed for 3 days. He's
Now,
very
Randy?
sick.
Yes.
Okay. So,
'Cause he
what is
was
his
gonna come.
thoughts on where this is going?
He wants to sell.
Sell it,
Understand.
That's
whoever
the
wants to buy it.
owner's
That's Sue's
Right, but they're
brother.
just, okay.
brother.
And you
He's
guys
the
want
only
to
man
keep
who's building
This place.
this area safe.
He
You don't want
manages
what's
it.
happening in that
But it can't happen.
quite Correia.
It can happen.
Estates.
It can happen.
That's right.
Don't say it can't.
I said it can happen. That's right, I said it can
Right.
happen, like next door.
It can.
Right.
So
That's
we are
simple.
trying to put in guidelines and protections.
Right.
Again, I want to reiterate what I started with. Our goal was never to transition this to market rate. It was never to kick people out. Our goal is to protect the people that exist here already and ensure that there are protections.
We want riffraff
That's it.
from all over the place to come in here.
We want to be able
Well,
to.
present
make-
mayor's put them in
But you
here,
really don't have a
all
say.
over the city.
But the buyer and the seller do.
Correct, but to make the sale happen.
Pass, yeah.
They
I
wanted
said
it.
present, oh,
Approximately in the beginning, they wanted this 1.6 million and all the vouchers.
Right. Where there's
That
all
was a
these
problem.
bills,
They were the
we bought up at that price.
Right. Yeah, we just
Free
didn't-
money from the government. So what's the problem? I don't understand why.
There is no problem. You know what happened here? This is what happens when people try to make mountains out of molehills. This is what happens when people get other people excited about things that should have been talked about at a negotiation table. And this is what happens when people get pretty crazy about $3 million that they're gonna make without understanding the needs of a
I
community.
think people are misguided by what you're.
I know they were. That's why I'm here today.
We all, I look around, everybody thinks they're getting kicked out, so I understand, but it comes down to the seller and the buyer, and you will control, or try to control, with Mass House,
Correct.
who comes in here. Backgrounds.
Mass house.
Yeah, I get it. I
Again,
get
it could be a private.
Right.
The Weston was designated by the state under a state law called Chapter 40.
Where are they from?
They're based in somewhere outside of Boston. they own, I've never been
So they just
before this.
wanna buy the
But
property,
no,
invest in it.
there's a state law that says
$10
that
million
these,
that's been
they can
appropriated
match-
by the state in order to refurbish this building.
Right.
Through them, $10 million. It's all due through the state.
Right.
The state should have the say in this matter.
they were picked by the state, that's what the point is. The state picked what they call a preservation buyer to keep the building affordable for you. That was what that was about. If they hadn't done that, the building would be sold to a for-profit company with no restrictions.
And what it would end
The
up like
only
the one behind
restrictions
us.
are, there's a rent restriction, for the 13A tenants. They can't raise, if you're below 80% of the median income, which almost everybody here is, they cannot raise rents more than 3% plus inflation for 3 years, each of 3 years. After that, there is no restriction whatsoever. So the problem is, there are 90 people that are paying what's called a 13A basic rent right now, about half of you.
Which they're trying to preserve.
Well, no, actually, the mayor has just said, he is not, he's saying that, but I haven't heard him say how he is going to prevent those rents from going up to market after 3 years. They haven't said that. The only way that we can see is to get project-based vouchers for those low-income people that qualify, so it would lower their rents to 30% and keep them that way. We don't see any other way to do it. The 1.6 million is actually not necessary to preserve this building. But the project-based voucher commitment for the people that need it is necessary, and we don't see any other way to prevent the building from, the rents from going all the way to market after 3 years if this preservation plan falls through. So Weston was picked as a preservation buyer, but if that falls through, it just goes to the for-profit buy, the highest bidder, the highest bid for-profit company that's next in line. And then you have no protection at all.
So here's a couple of comments. So, Mr. Kane, I apologize that I have to say it this way, but I have to say it this way. First, I just want everybody to understand how I am working on your behalf every day, and the entire community's behalf every day. Okay? So think of it from my perspective as the mayor. First, we get a proposal from Weston that says they want a project base the entire property, and they need 1.6 million. We'll provide you the proposal. Okay, so that's not a lie. That's not just me talking. That's a proposal from Weston, not from Jaysville Correia, from them. We say no, come back with a better proposal. They take it to the housing authority, they want 150. They wanted 1.6. They wanted all this stuff from the city. But now, today, from Mr. Kane, you heard, well, they don't actually need the 1.6. Well, they actually didn't need the 150. They only needed 90.
They need whoever buys it is gonna need project-based vouchers to prevent
That's not
displacement of the low-income people in the
No,
It
building.
wasn't through Mr. Kane that said it, it was the buyers that said it at the housing authority meeting.
understand,
To the
sir.
housing authority board.
This gentleman today knows that they started at 150. Now today he's saying they only need 90. They needed 1.6, now they don't need 1.6.
I'm saying that, I'm not buying anything.
I know,
This is
you
my
said-
it's our analysis of the numbers, and we think that
But
Elliott
but
White
this
agrees
is
with that.
this is
So
this is the question,
It's
Mr.
a
Kane.
compromise that might work,
This is the-
and you can save face and get your market rate
Nobody's
housing
saving
in the
face,
building.
excuse me. Nobody's saving
That's what you
face.
said you
The only
wanted.
person that needs to save face here is you and Weston Associates for lying to the people in this room.
I have not lied to anybody.
Sir, tell
I've
me
just
why.
heard you lie tonight.
How have I lied?
You're telling people that there's gonna be a magic solution that is gonna make sure they can stay here without project-based vouchers,
What I'm
and I
telling
don't
you-
see how you can do that.
You may not see that, but what I'm telling you is that we are in communication with Mass Housing to create a flexible program to preserve the people that live here already,
After 3 years.
well after 3 years.
What's
This
the
deal,
flexible
Yeah,
program?
what is the flexible?
that's
What's
gonna
the
be,
flexible
Mass
program?
Housing is gonna create the program or figure out how to make that happen. We are not committing to project-based. I said that, I've been consistent. So they wanna preserve the housing here, they want a deal to
If
happen.
they suggest project-based, what do? Still say no?
Yes, I've said I'm not committing to project-based.
That's what we wanted to do.
That's very simple.
Correct.
That's-
Because everybody's giving us the room.
That's a problem in your
That's what we
mind.
wanted to do.
Okay, that's a problem in your mind, that may not be a problem
Well,
with people
I don't know
here.
what your
You're
experience
trying
is.
to tell them what they need. they don't need 150 units project-based. Is that correct?
I did not, I didn't say 100
You didn't,
today.
Mr. King,
I
you
was
did
saying
not say at
90.
the housing authority meeting that they should get 150 project-based units for this property. You did not advocate for that.
We did support that proposal. at
So
the
you
meeting,
supported a proposal
because
that was not in
what
the best interest of this building.
Because that was the proposal that was before the housing authority.
So why
we
was the
supported-
compromise there?
We supported the housing. If you listen to what we said, if you watch the tape,
I did
we
watch
were
the tape.
saying that we think that the building should be preserved for the existing income, mixed income profile, not 100% extremely low income. We didn't say that. We said it should be
But
the
you're telling me
existing
today-
income profile.
you're
That's what
telling me-
everybody, and that's not me, that's what everybody in this room
No, don't share the
has
blame with
said.
them. You
No,
told
the
them what they
people-
should do.
The people
Yes,
here
that's-
want to preserve the building
Project-based.
as the
That's the city's-
existing income
That's
profile.
not fair to those that are paying more than the Section 8 voucher. That's not fair to us. If they're suggesting that we can get 30% of our income, I'd like to have 30% of my income paid for
And
my
I
rent.
want you to have 30% of your
On a project-based situation.
We will
If
not-
you're- If you're against that, you're denying me to
That's
have a
right. That's
voucher
exactly
that would
right.
allow me to pay 30% of my income.
Incorrect.
That's
Then
exactly,
tell me
no, it's
different.
exactly right.
Tell me different, then how,
telling you
you're
different.
denying that voucher. You're
No,
telling
the
us that
city's not
today.
denying the voucher.
You are.
What we're doing is we are not gonna project-base these units.
That's what I just said.
That's it.
You're
If there's
denying
still
that
section-
voucher to me as a project base.
No. We are denying the building from becoming project-based for the next 20, 40 years, which would allow anybody from anywhere to come into this property. What we are trying to create is a solution, not a compromise, a solution. You guys don't want to compromise. You want to compromise in your home?
If it's project based.
No, you want a solution. No, sir, you don't want to, sir, excuse